Good morning to the session number 3 of model number 1, introduction and basic materials used in foundry, presented by Dr. Mani Raju, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Government Engineering College, Chamarajanagar. In previous session, we will discuss about what are the patterns and then functions of patterns, then what are the different materials used for preparing pattern, and then what do you mean by pattern allowance and their importance, and then different types of allowances we will discuss in detail, and then classification of patterns also we will discuss in the previous session, and then base color coding of patterns also discussed in the previous session. Now we will move on to further. We will go for binders. Here the sand used for preparing molds is a mixture of silica sand, that is of various sands like zircon, olivine, etc. And then silica sand is the widely used as base sand, and then is nothing but silica sand is the base sand plus binder plus additives. The main thing is the molding sand, it contains base sand is nothing but a silica sand plus binder and then additives. These are the ingredients of molding sand or foundry sand. That is base sand is nothing but a silica sand plus binder plus additives. For a good molding sand, clay may vary from ranges 6 to 12%, and then moisture or water content may vary from 3 to 5%. A hard mold is the primary requirement. He is making any castings, and the binders serve the purpose. A binder is a material used to produce a cohesion or bind the sand particles together, thereby imparting strength to the molding sand. Clay binders, for example, take bentonite is one type of clay binder, are the most widely used for bonding sand particles together. But clay activates or tends to bind sand particles only in the presence of water. The amount of water added to the clay should be based on the experimental trials, because if too little water is added, the sand will lack of strength as the bond between the sand is low. On the other hand, too much water causes sand to reach semi-liquid state, thereby making it unsuitable for molding. In other words, for a given percentage of clay, there is an optimum percentage of water that gives favorable properties to the molding sand. For good molding sand, the clay is varying from 6 to 12%, and the moisture is around 3 to 5%. Next we will go for types of binders used in molding sand. In this, binders are again classified into two types: organic binders and inorganic binders. In organic binders, for example, I will take dextrine is one type of organic binder that is made from starch, and molasses is a byproduct of sugar industry, and then cereal binders is gelatinized starch and gelatinized flour, and then linseed oil is a vegetable oil. Resins, different resins like urea formaldehyde, phenyl formaldehyde, etc. These are the organic binders used for bind the sand particles together, can give the strength to the molding sand. And then another one is inorganic group of binders. In this clay binder, example take bentonite or fire clay. Usually in molding sand or folding sand, clay binder, that is bentonite, is commonly used as a binder. Other one of inorganic binders is Portland cement, sodium silicate, etc. Next we'll go for additives. Here additives are generally added to develop certain new properties or to enhance the existing properties of the molding sand or foundry sand. They do not form a compulsory constituent to the molding sand. However, its addition improves the quality of the molding sand and hence the casting obtained. That means whatever the additives here is there is not compulsory constituent. If they required, then you will add. Uh, Here addition do not impart any binding qualities. You have to give some extra, enhance the existing properties, then only you can add these additives to the molding sand. Here are the few commonly used additives used, and their properties are explained one by one. Here are the commonly used additives: sea coal, silica floor, wood floor, and then iron oxide. I will explain one by one. Sea core. Uh, Here the properties of sea coal are: it is finely powdered bituminous coal. Its addition may range from around 2 to 8% of weight of sand. While adding this sea coal to the molding sand, it enhances some feeling, peeling property of the casting. And then while adding this sea coal to the molding sand, improves the surface finish of the molding sand, and then also prevents some sand burnouts. Next we will take silica floor. Here it is a pulverized silica added in the range is around 5 to 10% based on the sand weight, and then while adding this silica floor will resist metal penetration in the mold walls. Penetration is nothing but while pouring the molten metal will enter into the sand. You have to avoid that one. You can add silica floor to the molding sand, and then while adding this silica floor, molding sand will improve the surface finish of the molding sand. Next one is wood floor. It is a pulverized soft wood, that is fibrous material. It's add wood floor you have to add to the molding sand is added in the range of 1 to 2% by weight of sand. While adding this wood floor to the molding sand, controls sand expansion created by temper water, and then it absorbs excess water and improves flowability of sand during molding process. While adding this wood floor, and then you have to improve some collapsibility of molds. And the last one is iron oxide. It develops hot strength to the molding sand, and then thermal transfer of heat from the mold metal interface and provides some stability to the mold's dimensional properties. While adding this iron oxide, you have to give some mold's dimensional properties. Next we'll go for sand molding. Here a mold is a cavity created using a metal or refractory sand. The shape of the cavity corresponds to the shape of the casting except the dimensions. A mold is referred to as negative replica of the casting. Mold made of metal is called as metal or metallic molds, and the ones made by using sand is called sand molds. Here sand molds are, it's also called non-metallic molds. The sand molds are made using a mixture of refractory sand along with a binder and additive, and then you have to add some water also. This mixture is referred to as molding sand. A mold cavity is prepared using this molding sand. They are also referred to as non-metallic molds or refractory molds. Again, these molding sands may be of two types: natural sand and then synthetic sand. As usual, natural sand is nothing but it occurs readily in nature and contains all the ingredients in the right proportion. The sand can be directly used to prepare the mold. It is about natural sand. And then synthetic sand are prepared by making different ingredients. You have to add some sand, binder, and then additives, and then water in the correct proportion, and then use it for preparing the molds. Next, properties of molding sand. Uh, an important property of molding sand is that it should produce a sound casting, that is defectless casting, uh, that is good casting. Sound is nothing but a good casting. To achieve to achieve this, the molding sand should possesses the following desired properties. These are the main properties of foundry sand or molding sand. This is flowability, grain strength, dry strength, art strength, permeability, collapsibility, bench line, coefficient of expansion, adhesiveness, and then durability. We will discuss one by one. First, we will take flowability. It is the ability of the sand to flow easily and cover all the contours on the pattern, thus take the desired shape. The sand with flowability gets compacted to a uniform density. Energy during ramming gets easily transmitted through the sand if the flowability is good. Clay and water addition influences the flowability, and then good molding sand should have good flowability property. Next, we'll go for grain strength. Here, green is nothing but not the color. Here, it is the strength of the sand when the moist condition or grain condition. A mold with adequate grain strength will retain its shape, does not distort, and will not collapse while handling it. A mold with adequate grain strength resists metallostatic pressure and sand erosion while molten metal is flowing in the mold. Good molding sand should have good grain strength property. Next, we'll go for dry strength. Here, it is the strength of the sand when there is no moisture in the sand, that is in the dry condition. Hence, a good molding should be able to develop a good dry strength. By heating the mold to approximately around 200 degrees centigrade, all the moisture in the sand can be removed. The strength of such dried sand represents the dry strength. Dry sand enhances strength of the mold, and then resistance to erosion is improved considerably, and the shape of the mold is retained easily in the dry condition. Next, we'll go for art strength. It is the strength of the sand mold at high temperatures above 100 degrees centigrade. That is, if the art strength of sand is good at 200 degrees centigrade, it means that the sand has the necessary strength when the sand is heated and held at 200 degree centigrade. When the molten metal is poured into the cavity, the mold gets heated up. If the sand does not have sufficient strength at this temperature, it will induce casting defects. Hence, sand should have adequate strength at elevated temperatures. It is nothing but a hard strength. Next property is permeability. Here it is the ability of the sand to allow easy escape of gases or vapors through it. When the molten metal comes in contact with the mold and core surface, moisture, binders and additives present in them produces some gases and vapors. These tend to go through vent holes and also pass through the mold surface. The sand surface should allow these gases or vapors to easily escape. If these entrapped in the castings, the defects will appear in the casting as pores. Hence, a good molding sand should have good permeability strength. Next is collapsibility. It is the ability of the molding sand to collapse after the casting solidifies. It should break down into pieces at the knockout and cleaning stages easily. Easier the mold breaks, higher is the collapsibility property of the molding sand. If the mold or core sand does not collapse easily, it may obstruct, that is nothing but restrict the contraction of the solidifying casting and results in cracks in the casting. Hence, collapsibility of the sand mold should be good. Next one is bench line. Here it is the ability of the molding sand to retain its properties during its storage. The sand should possess fairly good bench life. A good molding sand should have good bench life. Next property is coefficient of expansion. Here molding sand should have very low expansion characteristics, otherwise sand expansion will occur. Lower the value of expansion, lesser is the problem of expansion defects in the mold. Lesser is the cracking tendency of the mold. Next property is adhesiveness. It is the property of the molding sand owing to which the surface of the mold are held together. It is because of this property that the sand sticks to the walls of the boxes. A good molding sand should have good adhesiveness. And then last property is the thing about durability. It is the ability of the sand to withstand repeated cycles of heating and cooling and still retain its properties. The sand should be reusable, that is, should be able to reclaim the sand. These are the main properties of molding sand or foundry sand. Next we will go for base sand. Here it is the mass of refractory grains. Grains are formed due to withering action of rocks. It is available in plenty in nature along sea beaches, deserts, etc. And then sand refers to sand grains without any other ingredients. They are normally oxides of elements. And then in requirements of base sand, for producing good casting, the sand has to fulfill the following requirements. that is what are the base sand you are using should be of sub-angular, that is grain size, and then should be good grain distribution, and then the sand should have high refractoriness, should have low impurities, and then should have low expansion characteristics, should be thermally stable. These are the main requirements of base sands you are using. And then in base sands there are of different types. Uh, these are the types of base sands. Uh, in molding sands usually we'll use this silica sand is commonly used as the base sand. These are the main types of basic sands: silica sand, olivine sand, chromite sand, and then zircon sand. These are the four basic types of base sands available. But in commonly we are using this base sand as silica sand in our foundries labs. And then main ingredients of molding sand contains silica sand plus additives plus binders. We will discuss one by one. First we will take silica sand. Silica sand is essentially a silicon dioxide SiO2 found in nature on the bottoms and banks of rivers, lake and seashores. Silica deposits tend to have varying degrees of organic and mineral contaminants like limestone, magnesia, soda and potassium excuse me, that must be removed prior to its usage. Otherwise, which affects castings in numerical ways. Silica sand is available in plenty, less expensive, and possesses some favorable properties, but its high thermal expansion leads to certain casting defects. The reason for which not being used in steel foundries. However, silica sand, when mixed with certain additives like wood flour, cereals, and then sawdust, etc., defects can be eliminated. These additives burn by the heat of the molten metal, thereby creating some voids that can be accommodated the sand expansion. Next type of base sand is nothing but olivine sand. Olivine sand is typically used in non-ferrous foundries with its thermal expansion about half of that of the silica sand. That is, although the olivine sand is thermal expansion is half of that silica sand, it makes it suitable for production of steel castings also. But the high cost restricts its wide usage. The cost is more as compared to silica sand. Next is chromite sand. This is nothing but a African sand with cost being much higher compared to other sands. That is, the chromite sand is cost is more as compared to silica sand and then olivine sand. And then due to its superior thermal characteristics, it is generally used in steel foundries for both mold and core making. You are using this chromite sand. And then last type of base sand is nothing but zircon sand. Here zircon or zirconium silicate possesses most stable thermal properties of all the above discussed sands. The choice for this type of sand arises when very high temperatures are encountered and refractoriness becomes a consideration. But the major disadvantage or drawbacks is that zircon has a traces of some uranium and thorium which is hazardous in nature, thereby restricting its usage in foundries. That is the main drawback of this zircon sand. Next is the type of base sand. Here molds prepared with sand are called sand molds or temporary molds, and then when molds are with metal, it is called metallic molds or permanent molds, as they are broken for removing the casting. The different types of sand molds are green sand mold, dry sand mold, and then no bake sand molds. We will discuss one by one. First we will take green sand mold. Here in green sand mold, the molding sand is in the moist state at the time of metal pouring. The main ingredients of green sand are silica sand, and then binder is nothing but a clay, binder or clay, and moisture. Moisture is nothing but a water. Additives may be added in small quantity to obtain the desired properties of molding. Nearly 60% of the total castings are prepared from these green sand mold. The main advantages of green sand molds are is prepared for simple, small, and medium castings, and are suitable for mass production. And then these green sand molds are least expensive, and then sand can be reused many times after reconditioning with clay and moisture. These are the main advantages of this green sand mold. And then only the drawback or disadvantages of these green sand molds are they give rise to many defects like porosity, blowholes, etc., because the moisture, that is water content, is more. And then molds cannot be stored for long time, and then not suitable for large castings. That is also one main drawback. And it's difficult to cast thin and intricate shapes. Many complicated shapes or intricate shapes cannot produce in green sand molds. It is also one main drawback. Next we'll go for dry sand mold. Here dry sand mold is prepared in normal manner as that of in green sand mold. And then ingredients also is same in green sand mold. After preparing the dry sand mold, that is uh, the dry sand mold is prepared in the normal manner as that of green sand mold, that is by mixing base sand and then binder, that is about clay, and then you have to add water, and then you have to sometimes you can add additives, and then strength is realized after baking the mold in the oven to remove some moisture present in them. And then baking is carried out around 6 to 12 hours, and then at a temperature of around 200 to 300 degree centigrade, depending on the size of the mold and type of metal being poured. Green sand mold and then dry sand mold is the preparation of ingredients is same, and then preparation of the mold also is same, but after preparing the mold, then you have to kept in ovens for 6 to 12 degrees and a temperature of around 200 to 300 degrees centigrade. You have to remove the moisture content in the mold. That is the main difference. Okay. And then the advantages of these dry sand molds, the molds are stronger than green sand molds, and then surface finish of the castings is better, and then defects related to moistures are eliminated in the dry sand mold. The only drawback of this dry sand molds are production is slower because due to some baking process, and then under baked or oven baked molds is another disadvantage. and then not suitable for large and heavy castings as they are difficult to bake. That is the main drawback of this dry sand molds. And then last type is no bake sand mold. Here a no bake, or it's also called a self-setting sand mold, is one that does not require baking. The main ingredients of this base sand and then binder, that is for resin type, and then you have to add some hardener and a catalyst or a accelerator. The bonding strength developed in molds by means of a self-setting chemical reaction between binder and hardener. In some cases, a catalyst or an accelerator is added to speed up the chemical reaction. The main advantages of this no bake sand here, a high strength is around 50 to 100 times that of green sand mold should be obtained, and then molds can be stored for longer periods, highly simplified molding, and then you will getting some dimensional accuracy and stability is better, and then improved some casting quality, and then surface finish also is excellent. These are the main advantages of this no bake sand mold. And then only the disadvantages of this no bake sand mold is you have to use some resins and catalysts, or you have to use is expensive, and then unsafe for human operators. That is also one main drawback. Due to high strength and hardness, reuse sand is slightly difficult. That is also one main drawback. And then use of resins and catalysts cause a lot of environmental problem. Next we'll go for ingredients of this different types. The molding sand is a mixture of base sand, binder and additives, and an ingredients for dry sand mixture are similar to green sand. We'll discuss one by one. Ingredients of green sand mixture. Here green sand mixture is composed of base sand, binder, moisture and additives. Here base sand you are using is silica is used as the base sand. It possesses some favorable properties, inexpensive and can be reused many number of times. The amount of silica sand added may depending on the requirements. And then binder, it's also nothing but a clay. Usually a clay, that is bentonite, is the widely used binder for bonding the sand particles. It is activated in the presence of water. A best bond between the sand can be activated with bentonite is varying from 6 to 12%, and then water is around 3 to 5%. And then finally additives. Additives are added in small quantities to develop certain new properties or to enhance the existing properties of the molding sand. For example, we'll take sea coal is one type of additives, silica floor, wood floor and iron oxide are the commonly used additives. These are the main ingredients of green sand. And then ingredients of no bake sand. That is previously I explained ingredients of green sand as well as dry sand is same. And then we will go for ingredients of no bake sand. Here of all the various no bake sand mixture, furan system, phenolic urethane system, alkyd system, sodium silicate binder system, etc. Ingredients of alkyd binder system, which is one of the most widely used binder system, is discussed here. And then again, the ingredients of no bake sand is consists of base sand. Usually silica sand is used as the base sand, and then binder. And then for using the binders, this alkyd binder system consists of three parts: part A binder, part B hardener, and then part C catalyst. This binder itself is divided into three parts: binder, hardener, as well as catalyst. Here, binder, part A. Uh, Part A is nothing but a binder. Here, a binder is alkyd resin, which is obtained by reacting linseed oil with a polybase acid like isophthalic and solvents like turpentine, kerosene, or mineral spirits to improve flowability. And then this addition is ranges from around 2 to 5% based on weight of sand. Next, part B is nothing but a hardener. Here the hardener is a reacted product between cobalt uh, or lead salts and naphthic acid. Its addition ranges from around 5 to 10% of based on weight of binder. Next, part C is nothing but a catalyst. Here methylene diphenyl diisocyanate, commonly is known as MDI, is used as catalyst to speed up the chemical reaction. Again, its addition ranges from 20 to 25% of based on weight of binder. Next is go for methods used for sand molding. Here the various sand molding methods are bench molding, floor molding, pit molding, and then machine molding. Here we'll discuss one by one. First we'll take bench molding. Here bench molding is preferred for small jobs and is carried out on a bench of convenient height. You have to keep in a bench and then go to the bench and then you have to prepare the mold. The bench mold, otherwise you can also take as bench maker, prepares the mold manually while standing. Then standing near the bench and then you have to prepare the mold is nothing but a bench molding. Above the bench you can place the molding boxes and then you have to place the pattern, fill the sand, molding sand, and then you have to prepare the mold is nothing but a bench molding. Next we'll go for floor molding. Here floor molding is preferred for large size molds that cannot be carried out on benches. In most of the foundries, molding is carried out on floors irrespective of the size of the jobs. Almost all foundries will go for this floor molding. Next type is pit molding. Here large castings that cannot be accommodated in mold boxes. Mold boxes is nothing but flasks are made in pits dug on the floor. The pits from the drag pot of mold and a separate co-box is placed above the pit. That is the pit maker will go to inside the earth and then prepare the mold as per the required shape of the casting. After that, above that you have to place the cob box is placed above the pit. The mold maker enters the pit and prepares the mold. The cob box is rammed using dry sand with risers placed at suitable location. The walls of the pit are lined with brick and the bottom is covered with some molding sand with the connecting vent pipes to the floor level for easy escape of some hot gases. A crane is used for handling the coke box and the other operations. That is nothing but the pit molding. And then we will go for machine molding. Here in bench, floor and pit molding, all the operations, ramming, withdrawing the pattern, rolling, uh, flask, etc., are done manually by mold makers. But when the large number of castings are to be produced, manual operations consumes more time, and also accuracy and uniformity of the molding varies. To overcome this difficulty, machine molding is used. The operations performed by machines include ramming, molding sand. We can by using the different machines like jolt operations or jolt squeeze operations, etc. And in ramming of the pattern is nothing but patterns are wrapped in the sand with vibrators that are operated electrically, or it may be by compressed air. And then removal of patterns, it may be done by raising or lowering the mold, or it may by raising or lowering the pattern. That is about this machine molding. This completes this session, and then thank you for patience listening. Thank you.